So usually when you're navigating a major project or maybe a big career transition or even just like a really difficult conversation, it kind of feels like you're following a GPS.
Right, yeah, you just type in the destination and go.
Exactly. You type it into the search bar, the little route highlights in that bright blue color, and you just drive. It's supposed to be this, straight, unbroken line. Like turn left, go straight for 5 miles, and boom, you have arrived.
Clean, efficient, and completely predictable.
Right. But then, of course, the signal drops.
It always does.
Yeah. And suddenly, you aren't on a highway anymore. You find yourself standing in the middle of this massive, overgrown hedge maze. And the thing about a maze is hitting dead ends is baked into the architecture, right? It's literally an absolute mathematical certainty.
Oh, absolutely. But the problem is our modern mindset kind of conditions us to treat that navigational necessity like it's some sort of catastrophic user error.
Yes. We treat the dead end like it's a full stop. You hit the wall, the screen goes dark, and the journey is just well over. And that actually brings us to our mission for today. Welcome to today's deep dive, by the way.
Glad to be here.
So today, we are looking at a source text that is, and this is kind of crazy, it's exactly 6 words long.
Just 6 words.
Just 6. It's an excerpt from a larger piece titled The Wisdom of Growth. And I'm just going to read the entirety of our text right now because it's so short. Here it is. Quote, "You didn't fail, you learned." End quote.
It really is a massive departure from our usual, dense data sets and huge articles.
Yeah, we usually have stacks of reading.
Right, but those 6 words, they force a really radical psychological reframing. If we actually deconstruct this single sentence today, it provides this incredible functional blueprint for basically rewiring your entire approach to setbacks.
Which we all have.
Exactly. And we can apply this whether you are, say, prepping for some high-stakes presentation that you're just terrified of bombing, or, you're just trying to navigate the daily friction of everyday life.
Right, so to understand the sort of mechanical power of this phrase, I think we have to first examine the really heavy, almost paralyzing weight of that word, fail.
Oh, for sure. It's a loaded word.
It really is. So going back to that maze analogy, failure is basically a period at the end of a sentence. It's that dead end where you just sit down in the dirt and declare the entire expedition a total loss.
And when we look at the evolutionary psychology behind that reaction, that paralysis, it makes complete sense. Humans are actually hardwired to process failure not just as a casual mistake, but as a severe physical threat.
Wait, really? A physical threat?
Yeah, exactly. Think about it. If our early ancestors failed at hunting or failed at navigating the terrain, they were ousted from the tribe or they starved to death.
Oh, wow. So the stakes were literal life and death.
Literally. So fast forward to today, right? When you say mess up a quarterly report or you flub a public speaking engagement, your brain still releases this massive spike in cortisol. Your amygdala treats a spreadsheet error the exact same way it treats, a predator hiding in the brush.
That is wild. So it's an involuntary response.
Totally involuntary. You experience that classic fight, flight, or freeze response.
And I feel like most of us just freeze, right? Like we take that huge cortisol spike and we internalize the event completely.
Oh, yeah. We make it about us.
Right. Just notice how people talk when things go wrong in their careers or their relationships. They rarely say, oh, I experienced a localized breakdown in my methodology.
Right. Nobody talks like that.
No, they say, I'm a failure. They take this isolated external event and they graft it directly onto their permanent identity.
It becomes who they are.
Exactly. Rather than just something that happened to them.
And that's exactly why the second half of our source text, that phrase you learned, operates on a completely different cognitive wavelength.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Well, learning is a verb, right? It inherently demands continuation. It demands movement. So by putting the phrase, you didn't fail, right at the very front of the sentence, the text forces you to decouple your identity from the outcome, right away.
Before the panic sets in.
Exactly. Before that cortisol spike even has a chance to paralyze you. It's honestly kind of a biological intervention disguised as a motivational mantra.
I love that, a biological intervention. So if failure is the period at the end of the sentence, learned is kind of like the ellipsis.
The ...
Yeah, the ... It's the act of, pulling out a pen while you're standing in that dead end of the maze and actually drawing a map. You're taking the dead end and turning it into useful topography.
So you know exactly why you shouldn't turn down that specific corridor again.
Exactly. And the bridge between those two states, the period and the ellipsis, is the comma in the text. Like the actual syntax is, you didn't fail, comma, you learned.
Yeah, that tiny little punctuation mark is doing an absurd amount of structural work there.
Right, because punctuation dictates the relationship between ideas.
It does. I mean, if the author had written two separate sentences like, you didn't fail, period. You learned, period.
It would feel super disjointed.
Exactly. A full stop severs the connection entirely. But the comma, it creates this unbreakable causality. It acts as like a pivot point.
A pivot point, I like that.
Yeah, so picture this. You are rushing headlong into this massive wall of perceived failure, right? And right before you crash into it and stop completely, the comma catches your momentum and just pivots it right into the act of learning.
Wow. So it
Awesome.
takes the kinetic energy of the mistake and transfers it directly into, like, cognitive utility.
Exactly. It doesn't let you stop.
Okay. But I have to bring some heavy pushback here, because I know what some people are thinking.
Bring it on.
Well, anyone listening to this deep dive with, a critical ear is going to hear the phrase, you didn't fail, you learned, and they're going to immediately suspect that we are drifting into toxic positivity territory.
Ah, right. The sugarcoating argument.
Exactly. Like if I completely dropped the ball on a major client account because I was just being negligent, or maybe I handled a personal conflict with like extreme immaturity, and my immediate response is to just pat myself on the back and say, well, I didn't fail. I mean, that feels like a really dangerous cognitive bypass.
It does sound like a cop-out when you frame it that way.
Right. It just feels like a built-in mechanism designed to completely avoid accountability.
Okay, so that's a very fair critique, but let's define what toxic positivity actually is. Fundamentally, toxic positivity is about denial. It's the active suppression of negative reality just to maintain this, fake facade of comfort.
Like the meme with the dog sitting in the fire going, this is fine.
Yes, exactly that meme. It's standing in a literally burning room and insisting the temperature is just a little warm today.
And neurologically, doing that creates massive cognitive dissonance.
Math.
Because you're consciously telling yourself everything is fine, but your nervous system is screaming, hey, you're on fire. It forces you to sort of detach from reality entirely just to avoid the emotion of shame.
Right, but see, what this text is demanding with the word learned is actually the exact opposite of a bypass. Learning requires you to walk right back into that burning room, locate the exact point of ignition, and study it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the text does not say, you didn't fail, everything is fine. It doesn't say, you didn't fail, it wasn't your fault.
It says you learned.
It says you learned. If you lost that big client account, the learning phase means actually sitting down and conducting this brutal, deeply honest autopsy of your own incompetence or your misjudgment in that moment.
Like, did I ignore crucial emails? Did I completely misread the market trends?
Right. Did you speak over your colleagues in the pitch meeting? You really cannot extract a lesson without dissecting the granular, the nuts and bolts of the mistake. So in that sense, learning implies absolute accountability.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You're basically shifting the spotlight off the shame of the result and blasting it onto the utility of the experience instead.
Exactly. Because shame just traps you in the past.
Yeah, it's an emotion that looks backward and just paralyzes you. Whereas utility, well, that equips you for the future. It's a purely scientific approach when you think about it.
It really is like the scientific method.
Right. You ran an experiment in your career, and the result was just the exact opposite of your hypothesis. You don't just burn down the entire laboratory and declare yourself a terrible scientist forever.
No, you'd never do that. You analyze the data.
Exactly. Chemical A plus chemical B caused an unexpected explosion. Well, cool. Now you know the precise boundaries and the volatility of those specific chemicals.
And treating your own life with that level of scientific objectivity, it removes that paralyzing emotional weight we discussed earlier, the whole cortisol spike thing.
The panic response.
Right. The accountability isn't lost at all. It is simply channeled into a productive avenue rather than a self-destructive one. You basically become accountable to the data rather than accountable to the shame.
And man, this objective extraction of data, that is a monumental shift for adults navigating, complex systems today.
Oh, it changes everything in a workplace.
Think about managing a team. Like if a huge product launch completely bombs and the leadership comes into the room and just says, we failed.
Panic ensues.
Right. It instantly creates this horrible atmosphere of fear and self-preservation. People are going to start hiding their mistakes just to survive the fallout.
But if leadership comes into that exact same room and says, hey, we didn't get the result we wanted, so let's map the data.
It completely changes the vibe.
It fosters an environment of true psychological safety. because innovation can literally only happen when the team knows that hitting a dead end isn't going to cost them their identity or their job.
Right. And this focus on data and utility, I think this leads us directly into the broader context of the source material today. We really have to look at the title of the piece, which is The Wisdom of Growth.
Yes, the title is so crucial here.
Because the author chose the word wisdom over, say, knowledge or intelligence for a highly specific reason, right?
Absolutely, because knowledge is mostly theoretical. I mean, you can acquire knowledge by reading a textbook or attending a seminar or, just memorizing statistics in the safety of your living room.
It's safe.
Very safe. But wisdom requires actual contact with reality.
Oh, it's like the difference between reading the instruction manual on how to fly a Cessna
Okay, great example.
and actually having to, like, pull a plane out of an aerodynamic stall at 10,000 feet.
Terrifying, but true.
Right. The manual is just knowledge. You only acquire wisdom when the engine actually sputters, gravity takes over, and your nice theoretical knowledge suddenly collides with this terrifying, totally unpredictable reality.
You really cannot gain wisdom in a vacuum. It absolutely requires friction.
Friction.
Yeah. In fact, I like to think of wisdom as the scar tissue of knowledge.
Ooh, the scar tissue. That's good.
Right. It's what forms after the impact. You cannot become wise without making missteps. Therefore, if you accept the premise of the title, The Wisdom of Growth, you are basically forced to accept that missteps, the exact events we traditionally label as terrible failures, are the mandatory entry fee for wisdom.
They're the price of admission.
Exactly.
I want to push that metaphor of growth just a little bit further. Because if we picture growth as a literal garden, then the learning that this text refers to isn't just like a gentle watering of the plants.
What is it then?
It's the compost.
Ah, yes. The messy stuff.
It is the literal decomposition of your past mistakes. Like in a compost pile, the breakdown of organic waste actually creates intense heat. The bacteria that breaks down the rot generates the thermal energy and the chemical breakdown necessary to create nutrient-dense soil.
It's an active, violent process almost.
Yeah. Your mistakes have to break down, and sometimes it's really painful, but they have to do that to fuel the next iteration of your actual growth.
And understanding that biological process fundamentally changes the whole risk-reward calculation that we all use every single day.
How so?
Well, usually we view risk strictly through a binary lens, right? It's either success or failure. If you ask for a promotion, you will either get it and succeed, or you will be rejected and fail.
A 1 or a 0.
Exactly. And because we fear the finality and that biological panic of failure we talked about, we often just choose not to take the risk at all.
We just stay completely out of the maze. We never even enter the garden.
Right. But synthesizing the title, The Wisdom of Growth, with the core text, you didn't fail, you learned. It creates this foolproof non-binary formula.
Okay, walk me through that formula.
True wisdom isn't the absence of missteps. It is the deliberate, conscious conversion of those missteps into compost. It makes the act of trying a win-win scenario no matter what happens.
Wow.
Think about it. If you ask for the promotion and get it, you succeed. But if you asked for the promotion and do not get it, you didn't fail.
You learned.
You learned what specific skills management currently values. You learned where your own blind spots are. You gathered crucial data that acts as the thermal energy for your very next career move.
This completely dismantles the conditioning we all receive from childhood.
How do you mean?
Well, think about school. Our entire educational system is built on this strict deduction model of value.
Oh, like grading tests.
Exactly. You take a standardized test, you start with 100%, and every single time you make a mistake, your value drops. 90, 80, 70.
You're just penalized for every deviation from perfection.
Yes. And it creates this deeply ingrained mindset where mistakes equal a literal loss of your inherent worth.
It's an exclusionary model of worth, for sure. But the 6-word philosophy of our source text introduces an additive model instead.
An additive model. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it posits that every time you make an error, provided you do the rigorous work to actually extract the data like we talked about, you are actually adding to your total value. You are stockpiling resources.
Okay, let's apply that additive model to a real-world adult scenario. Think about a long-term relationship that ends terribly.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It is. Under the deduction model, you view that 5-year relationship as a total failure. You see it as a waste of time, just a massive deduction from your life's overall value, and you carry the heavy shame of all that lost time.
Which is how most people process breakups, honestly.
Exactly. But under the additive model, you engage your analytical brain and you extract the data. You learn about maybe your insecure attachment style, you identify your communication deficits, you map out your previously unarticulated boundaries.
Right, you're mapping the dead ends.
Yes. And you take that massive pile of compost into your next relationship. So you haven't lost 5 years at all. You've actually gained the exact psychological architecture needed to make the next relationship succeed.
And notice how the text anchors this entire process squarely within your own agency.
Oh, because of the word you.
Exactly. It starts and ends with the exact same word, you. You didn't fail, you learned.
Right.
It does not say the project didn't fail, the project learned. It isolates the individual completely from the external event.
Oh, that's a really good point.
The external event might have completely collapsed. I mean, the company might have gone bankrupt, the relationship might have shattered into a million pieces, but you remain.
You are still standing there.
Right. You have the absolute agency to decide how to process the wreckage of that event. You can brand yourself with the terminal identity of failure, or you can activate the verb learned.
It really is about untethering your identity from the outcome. The outcome is a dead end. But you are not the dead end.
No, you're the navigator.
You are the navigator walking through the maze. And a skilled navigator actually expects dead ends. They rely on them to map the perimeter of the territory.
They do. And what this text ultimately demands is, frankly, an elite level of cognitive resilience. It requires you to override your instinctual, deeply evolutionary response to a setback.
Which is not easy.
Not at all. In the exact moment your cortisol spikes and your body tells you to just freeze or run away and hide in shame, you have to forcibly engage your higher analytical brain.
It's asking you to be the pilot, recalling the instruction manual while the plane is actively stalling out of the sky.
Yes, perfect callback.
It takes immense discipline to look at the shattered pieces of a major project and say, okay, well, the structural integrity couldn't hold that weight. Data acquired.
Data acquired, exactly.
But that discipline is the exact mechanism that produces the wisdom of growth.
You know, we have taken a microscopic 6-word excerpt today and really unpacked it into this comprehensive framework for processing reality.
We really have. We looked at the heavy terminal nature of the word failure and that evolutionary panic it induces in our nervous systems.
And we explored how the comma acts as a linguistic bridge, right? Forcing a pivot from kinetic momentum right into cognitive utility.
We also tackled the skepticism of toxic positivity head-on. We demonstrated how the word learned demands absolute accountability and objective data extraction.
Walking back into the burning room.
Yes, going back to find the point of ignition, moving away from the paralysis of shame and toward the actual empowerment of utility.
And we connected all of this to the absolute necessity of friction. True wisdom requires the messy, heat-generating compost of past missteps. We shifted from a deduction model of human value where every mistake lowers your worth.
Which we learn in school.
Right, over to an additive model where every analyzed misstep just stockpiles resources for your future.
So to you, listening to this deep dive right now, I really want you to think about how you can apply this syntactical shift to your life today. The next time you hit a wall, or the next time you bomb a meeting, or you struggle to grasp a complex new concept, or honestly, you just have a day where the maze feels completely impossible to navigate.
Which happens to all of us.
All the time. Just remember the pivot of this tiny text. Catch yourself before you put a heavy terminal period at the end of your sentence. Replace the period with a comma and pivot into the learning. Pull out your pen and draw the map of the dead end.
And, you know, if we follow the logic of this text to its absolute conclusion, it raises a really fascinating paradox.
Ooh, leave us with the paradox. Let's hear it.
Well, if learning, and therefore growth, is the direct, unavoidable result of what we traditionally call a mistake, then structuring your life entirely around playing it safe actually becomes the ultimate risk.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
If you never take a leap and you successfully avoid ever making a misstep, isn't the active avoidance of failure the only true way to fail?
Because if you never hit a dead end, you never have to pull out your pen to draw the map. And if you never draw the map, you're not actually navigating the maze. You're just standing still at the entrance.